everybody, my name is Vernalpath, and today I'd like to talk to you about Dead Estate. Dead Estate is an isometric pixel art roguelike that delves into a theme of horror, loss, and the deeds done to cope with that loss. In the world, you will play as one of 10 characters going higher and higher, level by level, in a giant mansion filled with grotesque horrors beyond human comprehension. And a rat. No, I will not elaborate. Your goal is to get to the top of the mansion to fight a final boss and escape. Now, I know this doesn't sound too exciting, but you've got to let me continue. You start with 2 characters unlocked, Jeff and Jules. The first time you hop in, you will notice that you were either very slow or very weak, depending on who you picked. You'll also see that you have unlimited ammo with your primary weapon, and that everybody starts with a different one. Your main mode of evasion is going to be jumping. Now you might be asking yourself, why would I want to explore this mansion? Well, you kinda have to. You see, the boss room at the end of each floor is locked, and you need to find a key that is in a marked room somewhere on the floor. Sometimes it's right next to your starting room. Did I mention that each floor you start with a blank map that fills out as you explore? The devs did a superb job prodding the player silently into exploration. The more you explore, the more you'll be surprised. Just don't stay too long on a single floor. Not everything in the mansion is as it seems, but more on that later. While you get lost in seemingly endless rooms, you will come across a few things. A shop that's being hosted by a witch, a doctor's office that can increase 1 of 3 of your stats or full heal you if you can afford it. She does not take insurance, I'm sorry, I checked. You can also find a weapon shop, secret rooms, treasure rooms, and weapon rooms. These secondary weapons can be extremely powerful, middle of the line, or a straight up joke, like a literal joke. However, they all have ammo, something that you will need to be able to manage. Now, you will more than likely die the first few times that you play the game. It's quite hard and very punishing sometimes. It's a roguelike, so RNG will always be a factor when it comes to your run and how well you do. When you get to the top floor, you will be met with something completely different, a break for a moment. From here you will get one last witch shop, one last item, and one last weapon. If you go north, you will fight the final boss, and if you go south, you will jump off the top floor and loop your run. If you loop your run, even more new monsters and traps will be awaiting you. Let's say you decide to fight the final boss. What are you going to be met with? Well, when you go to the north transition, you will enter one more blank room containing a coffin that's locked. That's strange. Your character will say something. It differs from character to character, and you move ahead to the next room and see a door. Well, that's probably not good. Is that a fucking rat? If you beat this boss, the mansion will begin to self-destruct and Cordelia will fly by on her broom to save you, narrowly escaping the explosion. You will begin to unlock more of the world, such as alternate floors, as you beat the game more and more. As I said, there's much more to this mansion than it seems, with lots of mysteries and puzzles to figure out. You might have noticed that the witch, the weapons dealer, and the doctor are all the same person, Cordelia. Now that you've unlocked some alternate levels, if you beat the bosses in those alternate levels, you will start obtaining key pieces. You will also begin to find some other things like weird elevators that just don't quite look like the regular elevator you would take to get to the next floor. So, in order to get to the full story of Dead Estate, you will need to beat the game as every character. We will go in order of the character select screen while explaining these. First off, we have Jules and Jeff. It begins with Jules walking through a wooded area alongside a road in the rain. She begins hitchhiking, sticking her thumb out, and Jeff picks her up. Cordelia is the main character in the actual story of Dead Estate. See, Cordelia, the witch, lives here. You will unlock a cutscene of her looking at a book labeled Memories and Reminiscing. Her father is a scientist, as you can see in her flashbacks. Unfortunately, the moment is cut short by a loud roar. Cordelia books it out of the library as fast as she can as a shadowy figure with fangs lurks in the shadows, presumably chasing her. Next up is Fuji, the powerhouse masked wrestler. The story begins with her wrestling in school and getting eyed by Cordelia. Soon, they very quickly become friends. They're dating. And Cordelia was cheering Fuji on to the championships. However, during the big championship match, Cordelia was not there. This caused Fuji to become incredibly worried about her. She began busting her way through the wooded forest, destroying anything in her way with just her fists. She needed to know if Cordelia was okay. Now is Boss. Boss is a green-haired woman that was in prison. She escaped by blowing a hole through the wall. It then shows her hitching a ride in the back of Jeff's truck by secret while he is in a diner. Soon, she realizes they stopped and slams the door open. With a look of tiredness that is quickly replaced with excitement, she begins busting her way through the forest and makes her way into the mansion. Luis, the hard-ass cop with a too-cool-to-care attitude, is next. He comes across Jeff's deserted truck with blood surrounding the area. He quickly surmises that things are off. He notices a bunch of footprints before noticing a man getting attacked by a zombie. Swift shot, he nails the zombie in the head with his trusty magnum. He makes his way over to the mansion and glances down at a picture in his wallet. Is that Cordelia's dad? Ugly Little Mamba is next. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this cutscene here. It looks like he gets transported from a different dimension only to be picked up by Cordelia's dad and put into medical care. This one is very short, as I'm pretty sure it's just a tie-in character from a different game by the same devs. Lydia starts with her in a diner looking at a mansion that is labeled as haunted. She sees this as an opportunity to be the real estate star that she has always wanted to be. She heads there and scopes it out, only it's probably not what she expected. This is also just another quick character. I don't think she adds to the story much. I think the whole point of this character is her little gimmick in the game, and it's very fun. Little man Digby is up next. Digby is looking at his badge list, and he only needs one more badge to be a fully fledged Boy Scout. And it's to be a lab rat. Walking along the street, he notices a flyer, lab assistant needed. What marvelous luck. He grabs it and starts heading to the mansion. He looks down at a picture of Cordelia and her father, and he clearly has a crush on Cordelia. He goes to knock, but before he can, a large dark hand flies out of the door and grabs him, yanking him in. The final character on the chopping block is Axel. Axel is hanging out with a few friends. They decide to break in and record a movie only to be interrupted by a zombie. He kills the zombie with a swift axe throw and goes back to trying to kiss his partner, only he was too late. Everyone turned. Axel flees. A few days later, he is shown still being in the mansion. He clearly has been camping out here. He notices Jules and Jeff and looks concerned, but the little movie ends without any explanation. And that is every single intro to every single character. Bosses will drop a key piece that can be combined into a skull key. Once you get to the roof of the mansion, the key will unlock the coffin and a syringe comes out? Weird. You head into the final boss room to fight the giant mutated rat once more, only the syringe automatically injects itself into the rat. What? He gets dazed and looks hurt, only to begin shrinking. You are brought into a room with a weird device and a button. You try to press the button, but nothing. You notice the rat moving towards it. He jumps up and slams down on the button, and suddenly the device turns on. It sucks you in and you begin to fall. You keep falling and falling until you land in a hellish scape that is full of never-before-seen enemies. You see, exit isn't a way out, it's a dimension. It's where all the monsters invading the mansion and presumably the rest of the world are coming from. This time though, there's no key. If you were paying attention to when you landed, you will notice there's something that looks like a hatch. It's got 3 devices around it that look like lights. You do the only thing you know and explore and kill. While exploring, you will notice buttons. If you press all 3 buttons, the hatch in the starting room will open. Return and fall down and you will land in a strange room full of dead cultists. Keep moving forward and you will find him. Cordelia's dad. He's not dead. You go to try and save him, but he begins levitating. His body flies through the door behind him and you begin pursuit. You chase him through a few rooms while he floats and he finally stops. Suddenly he shoots up in the sky and a demon drops down. This begins the final battle against Devila. After an intense fight, or not, depending on how strong you are, you come out victorious and Cordelia once again comes and saves you from the self-destructing exit dimension this time. Except she's got her dad with her. You, Cordelia, and her father begin flying out of the exit realm, only a piece of debris hits your character and knocks them off the broom. After a second fight against a grotesque amalgamation that Devila really is, the trio return home through the portal and are greeted by all the characters. It continues, and you see Cordelia and her mother hugging Cordelia's father, absolutely euphoric that their loved one has returned. From here on, we're going to start talking about the pros and cons of the game as a whole. To begin, let's talk about the art style. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. The pixel art goes so far with so little, and the characters are good looking to say the least. The monsters are horrific, and the cutscenes, while still just pixel art, are done so well that you can't help but be in awe. The art in this game is a solid 10 out of 10. They absolutely nailed it here. Good job, guys. Next, let's talk about the difficulty. This game has multiple difficulties, with harder ones unlocking each time you beat the hardest one unlocked. This makes the game incredibly accessible to everyone that wants to play. The bosses are balanced, the enemies are balanced, and I haven't had an issue with any of the enemies being glitchy or buggy. On normal, standard difficulty, you will, like I said, probably die the first few times. While it is hard, you can always practice on an easier difficulty, so I don't think the game is wrong for being difficult. Plus, you can still unlock stuff on easy mode. Moving on to probably the longest part of this section, the selection of items and weapons. There are 115 weapons and 227 items. While this is quite a large selection, I do take issue with quite a few of them. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them are great items and weapons, I just think that they have so many of some of them that they've reached a point of oversaturation. The game is really fun when you get a good run, and I'm not always expecting to get a good run, but when it comes to getting an item like fake poo that literally just changes all weapon noises to fart noises, it feels like a slap in the face. There are quite a few items like this as well. A few to name are Fun Sticks, which change blood puddles to various different colors, or Old Reel, which just grayscales your screen, or Blood Vial, which just makes enemies bleed more. I don't hate the idea of having silly things like that in the game, but I don't think they should be items. Maybe make them like an unlockable secret that you can toggle before a run to make it more fun. When it comes to the 115 weapons, unfortunately most of them aren't going to be as good as your main weapon. That might be what the devs were aiming for, I don't know, as a lot of them simply do too little damage, are extremely gimmicky, or are simply just unviable. A good example is the syringe gun. It shoots syringes that poisons enemies, and that sounds awesome, right? The only issue is that the gun itself does next to no damage, and poison itself ticks super slow and does very little damage. They did just buff the poison effect. Maybe they are viable now. I think everyone can agree that replayability is the bread and butter of a roguelike. If your roguelike isn't replayable, then nobody is going to play it at all. Roguelikes are, by nature, just doing run after run. Your game needs to be able to capture the player's attention and make them want to keep going back. That could be with fun weapons, that could be with a unique art style, that could be with a unique twist on the roguelike genre. When it comes to Dead Estate, it is incredibly replayable. I have 50 hours in the game at this point and have been working on the in-game medal list. There are 128 medals to unlock that you will get hints for as you unlock medals next to the locked ones. There are also 144 Steam achievements if that's what you look to do in games. There are 10 characters that you can unlock alternate costumes for, as well as unique challenges and toggleable curses to make your run even more variety-driven. On top of that, they just released Assignment Anya, which looks to be a unique game within Dead Estate. There's quite a bit of unlockable artwork and concept art that you can look at that will give you a look into development and other behind-the-scenes information, plus it's just cool. As I stated before, when you beat the game for the first time, you unlock Cordelia, and along with Cordelia as a playable character, you get her cutscene. That cutscene was enough to pique my interest into wanting to play the game more. The way the game keeps dangling new content in front of your face after you think you've discovered every part of the game keeps the run fresh and keeps the player wanting more. They did a wonderful job doing all this. All of the characters are incredibly unique, have different starting weapons, abilities, and quirks, as well as different dialogue for different situations. For example, Fuji, the strong woman, will not use weapons. She immediately recycles them for money upon pickup and will say something either out of pride for her muscles or disgust in weapons and guns. The only thing she will use are fist weapons. She is a fighter after all. Lydia gains a random item every time she gains a certain amount of money. However, she loses money constantly. If Lydia reaches 0, she will begin to take damage until she dies. This causes a unique balance between making enough money to get those free items and managing your money for more important things like stat upgrades. You don't want to have $300, spend $250 of it, and only have a few seconds to find money before you die. The characters having such a difference also adds to the replayability value of the game in my opinion. They don't feel like carbon copies of each other. Side note, I don't really know where to put this, but if you play as Axel and go to Cordelia's shop, he tries to hit on her and she's just not having it. It's super funny. Each level has its own theme and alternate theme, and I have to applaud them. They made the music match the environments perfectly. I mean, look at this. This is the theme for the ground floor. You were just getting started, things seem pretty lighthearted, and the music shows it, but it's kind of off. This could be just me, but the music in the game sets me on alert, and that's good. It makes me wary of the world around me and keeps me immersed. It is incredibly reminiscent of the music from this SNES era, but a little more modern. And with that, I am bringing this video to a close. I don't want to keep talking and end up spoiling any fun that you could have with the game. Please, go buy the game, support the devs, they worked really hard on it, it shows. They're always updating it. Like I said, they just updated it with a brand new side content. It's like a whole new game inside the game. Go support them, they're worth it. Take care of yourself, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.